This is a delightful poem by Major Jackson called Why I Write Poetry. It's a little longer than usual, but well worth it. Why I Write Poetry. Because my son is as old as the stars. Because I have no blessings. Because I hold tangerines like orange tennis balls. Because I sit alone and welcome morning across the unshaved jaws of my lawn. Because the houses on my street sleep like turtles. Because the proper weight of beauty was her eyes last night beneath my eyes. Because the red goblet from which I drank made even water a Faustian toast. Because radishes should be banned, little pellets that they are. Because someone says it's late and begins to rise from a chair. Because a single drop of rain is hope for the thirsty. Because life is ordinary unless you plan and set in motion a war. Because I have not thanked enough. Because my lips moisten whenever I hear Mingus's goodbye pork pie hat. Because I've said the word dumbfuck too many times in my life. Because I plant winter vegetables in July. Because I could say the morning died like candle wax and no one would question its truth. Because I relished being sent into the coat room in third grade, where alone I would turn off the light and run my hands over my classmates' coats, as if playing tag with their bodies. Because once I shoplifted a pair of Hawaiian shorts and was caught at the Gallery Mall. Because soup reminds me of the warmth of my grandmother and old aunts. Because the long coast of my dreams is filled with saxophones and poems. Because someone, somewhere, is buying a Rolex or a Piaget. Because I wish I could speak 3 different languages, but I have to settle for the language of business and commerce. Because I used to wear paisley shirts and herringbone sports jackets, because I better get in my soul. Because my grandfather loved clean syntax, cologne, Stacey Adams shoes, Irish tweed caps, and women, but not necessarily in that order. Because I think the elderly are sexy and the young are naive and brutish. Because a vision of trees only comes to wise women and men who can fix old watches. Because I write with a pen whose supply of ink comes from the sea. Because gardens are fun to visit in the evenings when everyone has put away their coats and swords. Because I still do not eat corporate French fries or rhubarb jam. Because punctuation is my jury and the moon is my judge. Because my best friend in the 4th grade chased city buses from corner to corner. Because his cousin's father could not stop looking up at the sky after his return from the war. Because parataxis is just another way of making ends meet. because I have been on a steady diet of words since the age of 3.